I want to hear another point of view, so let's bring in Dr. Daniel Bober. He's a psychiatrist. He's coming to us from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. He's a former mental health policy fellow in the U.S. Senate. Okay, so when you hear a patient, say you have a patient, the patient goes, "Hey, doc, I can't go to work without getting stoned every morning." Is that a serious problem, or can they just kind of blithely go through the day?
Bill, it's a huge problem, and I don't know how people think this is a good thing. 1 in 7 people in the United States use marijuana, and in 1996, when California became the first state to approve, medical marijuana, it was kind of a joke because every doctor was giving a marijuana card to people with a head cold. So it was essentially recreational use at that point. And now you've got all these industries with people showing up positive for THC, and they're saying, well, you can't do anything about it because it's legal in my state. So I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's particularly bad for children and adolescents in the developing brain. For example, there was a study that was done in Colorado that showed that 3/4 of adolescents in a drug treatment center were getting their marijuana from adults with legal marijuana registration cards. So I don't think this is a good thing for society. And I think it's a gateway drug. We know that people who use marijuana are more likely to use alcohol and drugs like heroin. So this is bad for society, bottom line.
Okay. Now, companies drug test before they hire, a good number of American companies, before you're even in the door, they drug test you. THC, the intoxicant ingredient in pot, stays in your bloodstream for quite a while. And then they random drug test. Major League Baseball, football, you have to urinate in a cup. And in many corporations, it has in your written contract, we can drug test you. But
Right.
you say that if the state's legal, it's okay to come to work stoned, but you can have a policy, companies can have a policy, you cannot come on our property if you are inebriated, can you not?
You could, and I think that would be the argument they would make, which is, it's legal or I have a doctor's prescription. But the question is, and I'm not an attorney, but the question would be from a legal standpoint, can the company say, well, listen, if you want to go off in society in the state you're in and smoke pot, that's great, but you're not going to be working at this company. I actually agree with you. It's no different than going to work drunk. We know that marijuana, affects hand-eye coordination, your perception. It can cause delusions. It can cause paranoia. It can cause psychosis. So you don't want an employee on the job who's under the, intoxicating effects of this drug.
Yeah, plus you're eating Fritos all day and cookies, and I've never smoked
Right.
pot. Never. I don't know what it is. And the reason I didn't do it was twofold. I was an athlete all throughout my high school and college years, and I took seriously, so I didn't do drugs or alcohol at all. And then I saw in college how kids got intoxicated on drugs and what it did to them, and how most of them got in severe trouble, one way or the other, by getting drunk on alcohol or stoned on drugs. And I said, that doesn't look like what I want to do. Plus, in my family, there is a strain of alcoholism, as in most Irish families, and I didn't want to get any part of that. So I rejected it. Go ahead.
No, and one thing, Bill, that people don't seem to get is that the marijuana when you were in high school is very different than the marijuana now.
Sure.
The THC
What's
content
wrong?
when you were in high school was about 2%, and now it's about 20%. So we're actually seeing actual cases of marijuana addiction now and withdrawal that we didn't see back in your day because the marijuana is just
No,
much
but I
stronger
saw
and
it back
the
in
THC
my
content
day.
higher.
Any
Oh, even you
pleasure,
saw it, yes.
any pleasurable activity, Doc, and you know this as a psychiatrist, gambling, pornography, any pleasurable activity, all right, that a person enters into is a potential addiction. Some
Absolutely.
people can't handle it. They have to have it for whatever reason, for how they're wired. I feel sorry for those people. But I think you got to draw a line in American society and say, if you are being paid by a company, you must show up sober. And if you have a medical marijuana condition, just as if you would have had an epilepsy drug or whatever it may be, we need to know that so that we can deal with it in a responsible way. But you just can't show up stoned. And I think
I think
that
it's a safety issue. It's a safety issue
public
too. I mean,
safety,
you don't want
absolutely.
someone working at a hardware store operating a forklift under the influence of marijuana. It's absurd.
I don't want anybody driving. See, that's my
Right.
objection to marijuana legalization is on the road. And every single cop I know will tell you horror stories about using marijuana on the road. And the kids, as you mentioned, the kids can get it easier. Once the kid starts that road, their childhood's over,
Absolutely.
and on and on. All right, Doc, thanks always for the good interview. And
My
we
pleasure,
really
Bill.
appreciate you taking the
Thank you
time.
so much.